Our Father God, thank you for all that you have given Emma to say this morning. Thank you for what you've put on her heart. And I pray, Lord, that you will anoint her now with your words to speak it out. And will you anoint us to receive those words and act on them? Lord, will you just be in all of Emma's words this morning? Amen.
I'm going to try and twist this. Maybe my best both worlds. Right. Good morning again. So, let's just go straight for it, shall we? What are you afraid of?
My wife.
Your wife. Rightly so. I think we all have fears, as we were saying, and I think they kind of come into two different categories. We are all scared of like irrational things, small things, spiders, clowns, snakes. I remember being a child, a teenager, and walking through the reptile house at a zoo, because for me that is horrible. And I remember singing a VeggieTales song that I remember from my childhood, and Sarah's nodding. God is bigger than the boogeyman. He's bigger than Godzilla and the monsters on TV. I am seeing all the VeggieTale fans out there. And I remember singing it the whole way round because it gave me courage. It gave me hope, It's just a lizard, but it's a lizard. At the same time, we have real fears in life. We have rational fears. I remember singing the same song in the car, and Cassie in the background went, "Mummy, why are you singing that song?" Because I'm scared, because I'm about to walk into the hospital. For me, that's a real life fear, and it wasn't long after labour with Cassie where, don't blame her at all, but everything went wrong. And I have still got a real fear of hospitals and doctors and needles and anything like that. I have a right panic attack because they are horrible. And I know I'm not alone because I'm starting to get a reputation for giving lollipops out because they work for me. You survived a needle, here's a lollipop. So what are you scared of? Maybe it's being up here. Public speaking, oh, that's your worst nightmare. Or maybe the real fears in life are actually how on earth you're going to pay your gas and electricity bill next month. How are you going to pay the mortgage? What are your medical test results going to come back as? What the future has in store for you, for your family. So why do we have fear? The definition of fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. So we have fear because we're scared of the consequences that are going to happen. We're scared of the gas bill because actually we're not quite sure how much money is going to be left to pay for food, to pay for clothes, to give to things that are important to you. We have fear because we're worried about the consequences that we're going to get hurt or that someone else is going to get hurt. We're worried about the medical bills, because we're worried about actually, have I got cancer? Have I got a heart problem? Have I or have my daughter or my son, is my child going to be okay? Are they still going to be here in a few months' time? Those are real fears. That's okay. If you get anything from this morning, that's okay. So, in a way, fear is logical. You're scared of something that's going to hurt you, so you're scared. You're worried that something's going to hurt you, so you're scared. And in that way, is fear good or is it bad? Shout it out. Do you fear's good or bad? Depends. I thought that answer would come out. That's right. See, I think fear is good because, bear with me, there's going to be both sides. Fear is good, but it keeps our human race safe. If you have a fear of heights, you're not going to walk off a cliff. The fishermen in our story, they're going to be scared of a storm because a fisherman who is not scared of the waves capsizing their boat is a dead fisherman. Maybe, actually, if we are more scared in life, we'll act differently. If Judas was more scared about the consequences for Jesus, he might not have actually betrayed him. If Eve was more scared about the idea of not being close to God, she might not have eaten the apple. So if fear keeps us safe, why did Jesus tell the disciples off? Have you heard a sermon that says there are 365 times in the Bible, do not fear, one for every day. You don't need to be afraid or worried. Trust in God. All is well. Have anyone sat through that sermon? Makes you feel guilty. Makes you feel like your faith is not big enough because you feel a completely normal and God-given emotion to keep you safe. Hold on to that thought for a minute. A God-given emotion to keep you safe. Now I'm going to be really annoying because I'm going to contradict all of them. I'm going to say fear is not a bad thing. Don't feel guilty. We all get afraid. Like I said earlier, as little as Evie, as little as baby Robin, babies have fear. I wish my Evelyn had more fear the way that she walks off of things in the playground and the way she does things just fearlessly. It panics me. We care. That's why we get scared. That's why we get worried. That's why we get angry. Because we care about the consequences. We're trying to protect our children, our friends, ourselves from getting hurt. In the summer, I was really struggling with panic attacks. Those of you that know me, I've had a real issue since Evie's birth with panic attacks. They've got really bad for me. And in the summer holidays, I was really struggling. And I was like, what is your problem, Emma? Like, this is the summer holidays. I have no groups to attend to, no commitments, and I'm panicking. Yes, there's the theory of I didn't have any commitments, so therefore I didn't have a structure or whatever, but I just kept pushing it down. I'm like, no, you're being silly. Just concentrate on enjoying the time. You're being silly. Push it back. Just trust in God more. Just trust, what your problem is. This is the summer holidays. Enjoy it. And it didn't work. The panic was getting bigger. The depression was getting bigger. And I was just getting hysterical over broken cups. Really? And it just kept building up, and I hit a really bad day where, metaphorically, I was on my knees, but I was at the bottom of the stairs crying. And God said this perfect analogy that I really feel God wants to share today. You wouldn't moan at the sea for crashing into the shore. You wouldn't try to control it. You wouldn't try to hold back the sea. You would just let it crash into the shore. That's what it does. It's beautiful. I mean, if you sat there and actually watched them, you hear the noise. There's a beauty to waves crashing into the shore. There is also, when you go further out to the sea, and I think that picture is perfect, there is a calmness to the sea. You wouldn't moan at the sea for being calm. There's a beauty in that. There is a beauty in the sea, whether it is calm or whether it is crashing. There is a beauty in our emotions, whether we are calm and happy and joyful and life is good, and also when we are angry and annoyed and frustrated and scared and worried. I really think God sees a beauty in both. But our culture doesn't, and therefore our upbringing doesn't, and therefore our mindset doesn't. We see joy as happiness and positive, and we see anger as a negative. So why do we try to control the anger, but we don't try to control the calm, the peace, the happiness? The waves are affected by forces that we can see. Things like the wind, how strong it is, how strong it is and how fast it is, that was it. But it's also affected by things we can't see, how deep it is. What gravity is like. Well, obviously gravity is the same, but you know what I mean. It's affected by gravity too. The same with our emotions. We are affected by things, not just the things we can see and feel, people talking to us and their words have upset us, but also we're affected by the things we can't see. Hormones suck. Sugar levels. The weather. It's beautiful sunshine, so I'm happy. It's overcast, so I'm moody. Your bank balance. We're affected by those things too. Have you ever tried to stop the waves? Have you ever tried to stop a tantrum in toddler? It is impossible. It is so hard, and you cannot do it. You've got to just let the energy with the waves just disperse. You've got to let it crash itself out. And God very much said to me at the same thing. Skipping a bit, never mind. Rather than trying to control the panic attacks, let them be. Let them just be. So I stopped trying to push it back, and I just went, "Rah, God, this is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and I can't do this," and even down to the fact that I broke my mug today, and I'm really upset. And it felt so good, because I let it all out, even if it was petty, because God sees it anyway. God sees it all anyway, so you might as well tell it to your daddy. So I ranted it all out, and I felt like he was listening, and then I breathed. And then there was calm, and then I felt peace, and I felt a hug. And you know what? All that panic attacks that were building up just went whoosh, they were gone. Next day I had a few, but nowhere near as bad, because I took these rising emotions as a reminders to share them with God and actually allow him to talk to me about it, allow me to talk to him about it. And often that's all you need, is just that feeling of sharing it. And like I said, with a tantruming toddler, you just let them go rah at you, and then when they've got rid of that, then you can talk to them and go, actually, this is why. And we are the same, even if we're 29, 40, 50. Fear, allow yourself the space to let the fear out at God, at your parent. Give it its moment. So when is fear a bad thing? Why do we have a culture of negativity towards fear and anger and worry? I think for two reasons. It distracts us from God, and it stops us from doing things. So it distracts us from seeing how God is right next to us when you've just got a cloud around your head and you can't see the fact that there's sunshine like right next to you. Toddler is tantruming and kicking and screaming, and it's like, I'm right here with a hug. I've literally had moments where Evie is so tired that she is stropping because she didn't get a sweetie, and I'm sitting right there with the sweetie, kind of going, I'm here, I've got it, can you just stop stropping for 2 minutes? But we are the same. I'm seeing a lot of parents nodding. I'm just like, yeah, been there, or people who have been there. God is right there. It distracts us from remembering that God is bigger. God is bigger than the boogeyman. He is bigger than Godzilla and the monsters on TV. He made the heavens and the earth. He made you, and he loves you. God will give us the desires of our hearts. Bible verse there, can't remember where or the exact phrasing, but it is definitely in there. God made the mountains so he can move them. God made you so he can heal you. It distracts us from remembering that God has already won the war. This is what we sung this morning. This is what we know. God has won the war against the devil. He's already won the war against all of this. There is a song by Josh Wilson that I love. It's all about, if you go look it up, okay? Come find me and I'll give it to you. And the things that I'm afraid of are afraid of you. That's the title. It's all about him walking through the valley of the the valley of the shadow of the death. All of those scary things, and about how God is right next to us in all of that. He's being real with emotions. He's not just kind of going, oh, push back your fear. All is well. God is with you. He's like, I'm struggling here, but God is right there. The things that I am afraid of, they are afraid of God. And he's on our side. The joy, the Bible verse of the joy of the Lord is my strength was said this morning in our prayer. And the joy of the Lord is not this false thing where I'm going to be fine because God is awesome. But no, God is awesome. God is with you. So therefore you're going to be fine no matter what happens, no matter what the consequences are that you are scared of. God is with you. And we'll come back to that a bit. Fear also distracts us from being equipped. We are already equipped. God is not a daddy who just leaves us on earth trying to fight the little battles for him. Remember, he won the war. We're only fighting little tiny battles. He hasn't just left us on our own trying to muddle through. He has given us so much. He has given us the armor of God. Put it on every morning. It really helps. I've noticed that with the mood of my children. But he has given us the power of prayer. Talking to him, communicating with him, not this big theological scary thing, but actually like communication with your daddy of, I feel this sucks. And he goes, that's all right, I'm right here. The power of praise. Worship songs are awesome. They are so full of constant reminders of God, the battle belongs to you, that trusting God alone. There is so much there, so much. The Bible is also full of one-liner words of encouragement. Put it as your backdrop on your phone. I've got plenty of those. One single lines that just remind you that he is there. But also, the Bible is full of biographies of people who were scared and how God won that battle. We are also not alone. Fear distracts us and makes us feel like we're all by ourselves. We are not. We have the Holy Spirit. We have Jesus who died on the cross so that he could be near us. We have God. We also have angels. And we also have each other. We have a family here at Cogs who are ready to say, okay, can I help you? Can I be with you? Can I look after you? Can I pray with you? Can I think of you every day so you don't feel like you're fighting this on your own? So if we come back to these verses that we were just talking about, why is Jesus telling the disciples off for being scared? I don't think he was doing that. Jesus was sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, excuse me for paraphrasing, Jesus, do you not care that we're about to die? That's just so real and human, isn't it? He got up, he rebuked the waves, said to the waves, be quiet, be still. The wind died down and it was completely calm. Then he said to the disciples, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? Do you read that as God telling the disciples off? Or do you read that like I do, where God is just saying, what are you scared of? I'm standing right here. I'm in the boat with you. Have you not seen me do so many awesome things that you still are scared of drowning? You are still scared. They didn't wake him up and go, God, come help us. They said, don't you care? Do they not learn anything? And we are the same. We still get, God, don't you care about this situation? He's like, of course I do. Just come talk to me and I'll talk to you back and we'll fix this. We'll sort this out. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? So I believe that we should give the fear its moment, emphasis on moment, a period of time that ends. Then give it to God. Don't let it distract you from all of that. Don't let your fear distract you from God. So I keep talking about fear as a good thing, but as you said, it depends. When is fear a bad thing? When it distracts us, but also when it freezes us. They hear that phrase, frozen in fear. When it stops us from walking in God's best plan for us. God will always have a plan for you and your life. And if you make mistakes, if you, for whatever reason, go a bit off it, that's okay. He'll work around that. He always does. So nothing in your past will stop you from walking in his best plan. He can fix anything. But don't let fear stop you from doing what you want, what you feel God is wanting for you. Don't let fear stop you from praying for someone who you can see is struggling or you feel like God is calling you to. Think of Storm, all of her conversations about being in the Middle East. Don't let fear stop you. If fear stopped her, what would have happened to those people? Don't let fear stop you from picking up the phone to the doctors because you found a lump somewhere in your boob, in wherever. Don't let fear stop you from opening the post because actually you're really scared if this letter is another bill. Don't let fear stop you from walking into the reptile house because otherwise you miss out on the cute little tortoises. I love Gideon's story, not just the beginning bit where we all know about him asking God for confirmation, but I love the bit where he has the 300 men behind him, he's fast asleep, and God wakes him up and says, come to the top of the hill, I want you to come and listen to the Midianites for me. There's no mention that Gideon was fearful in that section of the Bible, but we know him to be a pretty fearful man in the past. I love how God wakes him up in the middle of the night and reassures him. The Midianites are having nightmares, they're scared of the Israelites, they think that God has won this war. And that just reassures Gideon. God already saw his fear, but he reassured Gideon that this is right, you're doing the right thing. But I also love it, God's encouraging Gideon to stand up for him and walk in his best plan. But also, the warriors and the Midianites, I think we can learn from them too. They are so scared of God. They are so scared of what this Israelite army can do. I mean, they don't know it's only numbers of 300, but it started off a heck of a lot more. They are so scared that actually they turn on each other and they run away. They don't even fight the Israelites because they are so scared. What is your fear doing with you right now? Is your fear there, but you're still standing strong in God's plan? Because I can do this. He's bigger than me. I'm just, catching on to his tail of his cloak. Or is fear actually stopping you and you're too freaking out and you're running away in the opposite direction? And as we know with our story, the Midianites ran away and the Israelites won the battle. And they got quite a big plunder from it too. So we look back on the 365 times it says, do not fear. And if we see it with a little bit more of God's compassion of fear is okay, when he says to the Israelites' army, he says in Deuteronomy, do not fear, for the Lord your God is with you. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of them, for I am with you. Yes, there's that do not fear, but not in a dictation of do not have the emotion of fear, but do not fear because I'm with you. So many times, 365 times. If you read them a bit more in context, you will see, I am with you. There is promises there. There is love there. There is reassurance there. In Mary, do not be afraid. Yes, you're about to have a baby. Yes, you are unwed and all the rest of it. But I see you. Doesn't he say, I chose you? It's that reassurance. I chose you. I see you. And so I'm going to give you a rather big thing to do for me. And yet she's remembered by everyone. That was it. I find that I'm in a season of this newfound confidence. And please do not think it's because I'm not scared. My fears are at the highest level they've ever been. But it's because I realised two things that I feel like I want to share. I have learned that not acting is actually worse than acting and it falling short. I saw someone having a real tough time at the bus stop, and that initial of going up to them and talking to them, that was horrible. That was like those 10, 30 seconds of complete horror and fear and yuck. And even though the conversation with her, I didn't do much. I didn't pray for her. I didn't do anything. But I know that minute, 5 minutes, whatever, was a whole lot better than the rest of the day wishing I had. Wishing I'd done something, praying for her fervently, feeling guilty to God that I didn't actually step out and do his calling. So remember that. Those 30 seconds of looking like a fool are a whole lot better than the rest of the day wishing you had. And sometimes you don't actually look like a fool. You look like you've got a God on your side who's recognising that one of his kids is hurting. But also, I've realised a really painful thing to experience. And I learned it by hitting rock bottom. And I really want you to listen to these words. There is nothing anyone can do to you. There is nothing anything can do to you that God cannot heal, that God cannot restore, and God cannot grow good fruit from. Why Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is such a brilliant story. Because they're standing facing the burning fire and they say, our God will save me, our God is bigger than you. And if he doesn't save me, he will make good on it. He is bigger. And he did save them. They still went into the fire. They still probably got a little bit singed. But I'd rather get singed for God and get burnt by potentially being in quite an explosive situation than live in a different life of not stepping out for God, for not walking in his best path. My bills are mounting up. And God, I need him to come save me. This is not personal. I need him to save me. But if he doesn't, he will make good on it. My health is really struggling right now, and I think I might be facing death. I want him to come heal me and save me. But if he doesn't, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Whatever you're facing right now, it is completely okay to ask God to come fix it. He's a daddy God. He loves us. But it's also okay if he chooses not to. It's that phrase of answers to prayer. Yes, no, wait. But trust that he's got a bigger plan. That he is walking in your best plan. And if you find that difficult to trust in him, if you feel you don't actually know this God that I'm talking about, come talk to me. Come talk to some of the others who seem further along in their path with God, and they will tell you personal experiences. You will see it in their eyes of how much God has just pulled through for them. And if he has not, the reasons why. It's only with hindsight that you realise those things. So give it, whatever it is that you're scared of, its moment. Give it to God. Don't let it distract you. And then get on with it. Don't let it stop you walking in God's plan. And don't for any reason think that I'm the one who's got this all sussed because I'm preaching from it. This morning, my husband looked at me and went, stop panicking, just get on with it. And I was like, oh, you know what I'm talking about this morning then. Because I was letting all the panic and the fear, and it was first thing in the morning and I hadn't really had my coffee yet or my shower, get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was freaking out because I'm like, how am I going to do this? And John's just like, you're forgetting who's with you. You're forgetting that God's been talking to you about this for the last 2 weeks. Now we're going to give God the space because there is absolutely no point. There is no point of me standing here talking to you about this if you're not going to go talk to him. So I'm going to be really annoying. We're going to just give this space to God because some of you, I recognise this is hitting home. We're going to give it its moment. It's okay to be scared. We're going to give it to God. We're going to give him all the grief, all the fear. Then we're going to give it to God. Don't let it distract you from how much he is bigger and stronger. And then we're going to get on with it. And if you need help with that, you want someone to walk with you and hold your hand into the fire, that's okay. We're right here. We are a family. Get on with it in whatever way that is, whether that is opening up those bills or contacting a debt agency or picking up the phone to the doctors. Whatever's worrying you right now.